Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 43 of The Loud House, ARGGH You For Real. We begin this segment with Lincoln and Clyde watching another episode of ARGGH. Towards the end of the episode, Hunter Spector makes an announcement that the next episode will be recorded 1 week later, and the location will be an old groundskeeper's house in Royal Woods, Michigan. Naturally, Lincoln and Clyde are excited by this news, and they head to that location the week of the episode recording so they can watch it firsthand. When they arrive, they see that there's a whole group of fellow ARG fans outside the old groundskeeper's house, and the ARG crew has set up a giant TV screen so the fans outside can see the action inside. Lincoln and Clyde are in the back row of the group of fans, so they don't have a very good view of the giant TV screen. They try to climb up a tree to get a better view, but that doesn't end up going too well. However, an ARG staff member mistakes them for fellow staff members because Lincoln and Clyde are wearing ARG uniforms. Clyde's about to clarify the misunderstanding, but Lincoln stops him, saying that what better way to experience ARG than right in front of them. So they go along with the mistake to actually go inside of the old groundskeeper's house. But when the filming of the episode begins, Lincoln and Clyde soon see that the whole episode or the event was staged. There wasn't really a ghost at the old groundskeeper's house. Afterwards, Lincoln is very frustrated to know that what he's been watching was a lie, but Clyde is eerily silent, which Lincoln notices, but Clyde just says he doesn't want to talk about it right now. Later on, we see that Lincoln is deleting all the episodes of ARG on the TV that he recorded. Lola doesn't really mind because that means that she has more room for episodes about a show she likes to watch. Something about plastic surgeries going horribly wrong. But Lincoln gets a call on his walkie-talkie, but it's not Clyde calling him. It's Harold McBride, one of Clyde's dads. And they want Lincoln to come over to help because something's up with Clyde. And it turns out Dr. Lopez is on vacation and she doesn't want to be disturbed while she's on vacation. So Lincoln heads over to the McBride house to see what's wrong. And it turns out that Clyde's given up on everything he's believed in because of the staged episode of ARG that he and Lincoln witnessed. And Harold and Howard are upset about this because Clyde isn't acting like himself anymore. And when Lincoln tries to convince Clyde that he doesn't have to give up on everything he believes in, Clyde insists that he has to, or that he should, and Lincoln decides that he wants to go see Hunter Spector about this. And we do see that the ARG crew is still by the old groundskeeper's house. They haven't left yet. And Lincoln is able to talk to Hunter Spector. At first, Hunter mistakes him as one of his staff members, like one of the other staff members did earlier. But Lincoln clarifies himself as a former fan, and that he's not a fan anymore because of the staged episode he saw, and that Clyde isn't much of a fan either after what's happened. But much to Lincoln's surprise, Clyde's name actually sounds familiar to Hunter. Hunter actually does receive all of Clyde's fan letters every week, something that Clyde mentioned earlier in the segment. And Hunter says Clyde was the only fan who noticed when he switched to an all-cotton suit. And he actually feels bad about making Clyde not believe it, making Clyde give up on everything he believed in, saying that he wasn't trying to trick anyone when he was, he wasn't trying to trick anyone with his show because he honestly does want to find ghosts and honestly wants to find paranormal activity. And he explains to Lincoln that the staged episode that Lincoln and Clyde saw was because of reality ensures, an example of reality ensures. Because Hunter Spector has a TV show, that means he has to keep an eye out on the show's budget or the episode budget, and he has to meet certain deadlines. So when they can't find an actual ghost, they have to stage a ghost incident to fulfill those requirements to have a TV show. And Hunter wishes he could restore Clyde's faith in what Clyde believed in, but he doesn't know how he can make things right. But Lincoln has an idea to help his friend out. Later on, Lincoln contacts Clyde through the walkie-talkie, and when he tells him to change it to the walkie-talkie to a specific channel, they hear Hunter Spector announcing or calling back the ARG staff for finding something at the old groundskeeper's house after all. Clyde doesn't believe it at first, but Lincoln points out that they've already recorded the episode for that particular location, so why would he be requesting the ARG staff to return? Clyde is still not convinced, but he eventually decides to go along with it when Lincoln requests that Clyde do it for him, as in do it for Lincoln. So Clyde begrudgingly agrees. Later on, we see Lincoln and Clyde meet up with Hunter Spector at the old groundskeeper's house. And Clyde still doesn't really believe any of it, but Hunter Spector points out that a can of cherry soda that he had went missing, and the old groundskeeper apparently liked cherry soda. But then Clyde still doesn't believe, but then an empty can of cherry soda flings itself towards Clyde, and suddenly he starts to think that maybe there's some truth to what Hunter is saying after all. And Hunter, Lincoln, and Clyde go through the house, seeing all sorts of what seems to be actual paranormal activity, and they seem to have actually captured the ghost by the end of it. Clyde's faith has been restored, and he says he's going to go home to write Hunter another fan letter, and he proclaims that he believes once again as he leaves. Afterwards, Lincoln admits he didn't want to lie to Clyde, but he thought it was the only chance they had left. And Lincoln and Hunter are complimenting each other about how they were able to make the activity they saw look paranormal when it was really some mundane solution or mundane answer. But Lincoln and Hunter are both surprised to find out that neither of them set up the incident with the empty cherry soda can. And then they hear some burping coming out of the device Hunter uses to capture ghosts. So Lincoln and Hunter see that there really was a ghost at the old groundskeeper's house. Later on, we see Lincoln and Clyde are back to watching ARG, and Hunter is, somewhere else. He's on a boat this time for this particular episode of ARG. And the segment ends with Harold and Howard happy to know that Clyde is back to his old self again. Now, this segment was pretty good because we got to meet another in-universe celebrity, a celebrity from within the universe of the Loud House, and in this case it was Hunter Spector. We've seen him before with Lincoln and Clyde watching TV, but we actually get to meet him in person in this segment, and he actually is a very nice person. While the whole, the ARG being staged, or the episode of ARG that Lincoln and Clyde got to take part in was staged, I did have a feeling that was going to be the route they went when I first saw the title before the segment actually aired. And they did go that broken pedestal route with what they saw of Hunter Spector. But they managed to do a rebuilt pedestal example as well, showing us that Hunter is quite honest about wanting to find ghosts and paranormal activity, but he makes a valid point that because he has a TV show, he does have to meet certain deadlines, and he has to stay within the budget he's given for each episode or for the show. So it does mention they do try to find real ghost activity, but when they can't, they have to stage it to meet those deadlines and keep the budget from going, not waste their budget. So it was a good example. They showed Hunter actually isn't a bad guy. And that's a nice touch because while it's true there are some celebrities that can be jerks, there are some celebrities who are honestly nice people that do care about their fans. And it was nice to see that Hunter Spector is one of those celebrities. And for Lincoln and Clyde, I did have a feeling they would go back to watching ARG by the end of the segment, but I did like the way they went about it. Well, Lincoln and Hunter worked together to help restore Clyde's faith in whatever Clyde believed in all that Clyde believed in. But at the end of the segment, Lincoln and Hunter saw that there really was a ghost there after all. So it makes sense for Lincoln to go back to watching ARG since he knows there really are some real ghosts out there. And I guess you could make the argument that Hunter's was reinvigorated and his original intentions had been restored now that he actually found an actual ghost at the old groundskeeper's house. So I thought that was a nice touch, and I liked how they went about the broken pedestal and restored pedestal approach for this segment. Once again, we had a segment where the Loud Sisters weren't in a prevalent role. Lola was the only one who actually appeared, and even then, she only had a brief scene. So this one really was more about Lincoln and Clyde's friendship and their status as fans of ARG. Oh, and speaking of ARG fans, there were a couple of background characters. There were a few minor characters from previous segments that were shown to be in the crowd, like Becky, one of Lori's friends from Party Down, and I think one of Maggie's friends was in the audience too. So I'm sure some fans might like that. It gives us like a little insight on these minor characters that we don't get to see too much of. Knowing that they're fellow ARG fans, it's a little detail, but it's still nice all the same that we get to see a little more about some of these minor characters we don't see too often. And, we did get to learn a little more about Dr. Lopez, too. Apparently, she's married, and her husband's name is Robert. And part of the reason why Dr. Lopez was on vacation was because her and Robert really needed this vacation, apparently. So again, it's a little detail, but it's still nice to have those little details to help shed a little more light on these characters that we don't get to see too much of. Still, we don't know what Dr. Lopez's first name is yet, and we still don't know what she looks like yet. So, but we know she's married now, and her husband's name's Robert. So at least it's some more details. I'm sure some fans will appreciate the little details there. And, I did enjoy this segment a lot. Like I said, I thought it was a nice touch to get to see more of ARG, and it was nice that we got a better understanding of Hunter Spector as a character. And I did appreciate the little details we had on some of the other minor characters that we don't see or hear too much from. And there you go. As to be expected, we'll be discussing the B segment next. Take care, and until next time.